Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about ecological damage and ecological compensation. What is ecological damage? Ecological damage or degradation is one of the largest threats that are being looked at in the world today. It is defined as any changes or disturbance to the environment perceived to be harmful or undesirable. Ecological damage is one of the 10 threats officially cautioned by the United Nations. The United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction defined ecological damage as the reduction of the capacity of the environment to meet social and ecological objectives and needs. Causes of ecological damage. Ecological damage is the result of developmental processes of economic and technological activities of human. It is caused by several forms of number 1, pollution, for example air, water, noise. Number 2, depletion of natural resources. Number 3, increasing dependence on energy consuming. And number 4, ecologically damaging technologies. Number 5, the environmental crisis is ascribed to exponential growth in human population. Number 6, fast expanding industries and philosophical religious outlook of society. The degree of environmental impact varies with cause, the habitat, the plants and animals that inhabit it. Factors causing ecological damage are following: number 1, habitat fragmentation. Number 2, agricultural runoff. Number 3, urban development. Number 4, natural causes. Number 5, landfills. Number 6, technology. And number 7, acid rain. First of all, we are going to talk about habitat fragmentation. Habitat fragmentation carries long-term environmental impacts, some of which can destroy entire ecosystems. Plants and animals are obvious members, but it will also include other components on which they rely on, such as streams, lakes and soils. Habitats become fragmented when development breaks up solid stretches of land. Examples include roads, which may cut through forests, or even paths which wind through grasslands. Agriculture runoff. The environmental impact of agriculture varies based on the wide variety of agriculture practices employed around the world. Ultimately, the environmental impact depends on the production practices of the system used by farmers. There are two types of indicators of environmental impact: means-based, which is based on the farmer's production methods, and effect-based, which is the impact that farming methods have on the farming system or on emissions to the environment. Agricultural runoff is a deadly source of pollutants which can degrade environments so much surface water washes over the soil and into lakes and streams. When it does so, it carries the fertilizers and pesticides used on the farmlands into water resources. Introducing poisons into waterways will have terrible consequences. Urban development. According to many noted ecologists, including those at Cornell University, urban development is responsible for environmental degradation. As population increased, so did the need for land for homes and farms. Wetlands were drained, grasslands were plowed over. Natural causes. Mother Nature causes environmental problems such as floods, quakes, tidal waves, storms, and wildfires can totally crush nearby animal and plant groups to the point where they can no longer survive in those areas. For example, the latter frequently happens after tidal waves when reptiles and bugs are washed ashore. Landfills pollute the environment and destroy the beauty of the city. Landfills come within the city due to the large amount of waste that gets generated by households, industries, factories and hospitals. Landfills pose a great risk to the health of the environment and the people who live there. Landfills produce foul smell when burned and cause huge environmental degradation. Technology. The applications of technology often result in unavoidable environmental impacts. Environmental impacts caused by the application of technology are often perceived as unavoidable for several reasons. The conservation of mass principle and the first law of thermodynamics, example Gradia, conservation of energy, dictate that whenever material resources or energy are moved around or manipulated by technology, environmental consequences are inescapable. According to the second law of thermodynamics, order can be increased within a system, such as the human economy, only by increasing disorder or entropy outside the system. Example gradia, the environment. Acid rain. Acid rain occurs when sulfur dioxide from coal plant emissions combine with moisture present in the air. A chemical reaction creates this acid precipitation. Acid rain can acidify and pollute lakes and streams. It causes similar effects to the soil. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, if enough acid rain falls in a given environment, it can acidify the water or soil to a point where no life can be sustained. Plants die off, the animals that depend upon them disappear, the condition of the environment deteriorates. Effects of ecological damage on human health. Human health might be at the receiving end as a result of environmental degradation. Areas exposed to toxic air pollutants can cause respiratory problems like pneumonia and asthma. Millions of people are known to have died due to indirect effects of air pollution when factories produce harmful chemicals and toxic waste into bodies of water. Humans suffer. Pesticides and fertilizers can also get into a region's water system and pollute it. Drinking water is contaminated, and these unhealthy practices cause the illnesses, death in children, death in adults. Ecological damage effects on ecosystem contains number 1, loss of biodiversity, number 2, ozone layer depletion, number 3, water degradation, number 4, climate change and temperature, number 5, losing earth's beauty, number 6, loss of tourism industry, number 7, economic impact. Ecological compensation is used to mitigate the impacts of development on biodiversity and ecosystem services and means that exploitation and land use changes that cause adverse effects on biodiversity and ecosystem services are compensated by providing new values in another area. Ecological compensation measures. Compensation measures usually consist of restoring or establishing and thereafter managing, such as number 1, nature reserves, number 2, wetlands or recreational areas. Ecological compensation is the last step in the so-called mitigation hierarchy, which requires that land exploiters avoid, minimize or restore biodiversity on site before considering compensation. Evaluation of ecological compensation. Trade-offs are determined through environmental impact assessment, which provides a framework for decision making in relation to projects with adverse environmental effects. EIA enables the effects of a proposal to be practiced and for the development and agreement of appropriate ways in which to mitigate them. Environmental impact assessment. Environmental impact assessment is a process which ensures that all environmental matters are taken into account quite early in the project and planning process itself. It takes into consideration not only technical and economic considerations but also traditional aspects like impact on local people, biodiversity, etc. It is also defined as systematic process of identifying future consequences of a current or proposed action. Factor covered by EIA. The EIA should identify, describe and assess the direct and indirect effects of a project on the following factors: number 1, human beings, number 2, fauna and flora, number 3, soil, air and water, number 4, material assets, number 5, cultural heritage and interactions between all above factors. EIA therefore should have a very strong social dimension which compensate the ecological damage. Ecological compensation is a step ahead towards sustainable ecosystem. Authority of all levels must involve not only in policy making but also in implementation and supervision of progress so that the national long-term environmental target can be attained, resulting in sustainable development. Number 1, government can utilize economic reward and punishment system to encourage forestation. Number 2, purchase recycled products. Number 3, conserve water. Number 4, do not litter or toss waste into inappropriate places. Number 5, conserve energy. Number 6, join an awareness group. Number 7, talk with others about the impacts of environmental degradation. And number 8, be an advocate to save your planet. Thanks for your attention.